First reporter from the Poverty Jobs Housing Task Force. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you so much for the introduction, Dr. Mack. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Asim Johnson. I'm the chair of the Poverty Housing and Jobs Task Force. I'm actually not going to take up a lot of time. I want to give the floor and yield the rest of my time to my colleague, Kirk Lobenstein, who's actually here representing the Healthcare Workers Rising and the home care efforts. So just briefly to talk about the housing work that we're doing through the task force. Last Saturday, we've been let me go back. We've been working with the Citywide Tenants Union to pass the Good Cause Eviction Act. This will give tenants support when dealing with evictions that are unjust. And some of the things that unfortunately tenants are dealing with is evictions due to rent being increased. Renovations or remodeling that needs to be done to their homes. The landlord is reluctant to do so because they would like to raise rent and eventually moving these people out. Where they're living on fixed incomes and don't have the resources to just pick up and leave and, have first month rent security deposit to move into another place on top of losing all of their assets. This is something that we saw as a huge concern and wanted to support their efforts. From there, this past Saturday, with the theme this month being Black History Month, the Citywide Tenants Union held an event that they called Housing Justice is Racial Justice, which we were a participant on at the public market. Dr. Mack and the Caucus really supported our efforts. And then we had two speakers, Rabbi Abrahams, as well as Father Worth, speak to the importance of this bill being passed and the real need to treat all in our community, in our region, with the utmost respect and dignity, and to humanize one another. Another speaker was Councilmember Mary Lupian, and she let everyone know that the City Council will present the bill this month, actually yesterday. And you need 5 council members to sign off for it to go through committee and then for it to be passed. Currently, we have 3, that being Councilmember Lupian, Councilmember Kim Smith, and Councilmember Stanley Martin. They're looking right now to really agitate and persuade other members of the council to see this as a huge need. There is an understanding from Council President Melendez to hold a public forum. He wants to know that there is real interest from others in the community, mainly his constituents, for such a bill to be passed. So we're going to support those efforts. One of the things that the tenants union is asking us to do is to reach out to our council members, call the question, why isn't Good Cause being passed? Really emphasize the need for it to be passed and how it will give protections for tenants in our region. So this is something that the task force is going to support on an ongoing basis. The hope is that if you could get the other 2 council members on board, that then this bill can be passed by next month. Which, as we know, is frigid here right now. So the sooner we could get something passed, keep people in their homes safely, the better. So we're just asking everyone to please support that. I will be sending out information continuously to keep everyone up to date of what's going on with the campaign. Secondly, the pandemic really has created a silver lining for more relief and resources to come into our region. We understand that a lot of the issues that we knew were here prior to the pandemic, that being lack of quality housing, lack of quality education, poor transportation, just you name it, we all knew that we had these problems. But what the pandemic has done is really exacerbated the need and the holes or gaps that we have within our systems. And now there is federal relief funding that has come into our region. So the city of Rochester, along with Monroe County and the school district, as well as the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority, are expecting $800 million to be coming in. This funding was earmarked for Rochester from federal relief efforts through the CARES Act as well as the American Rescue Plan. Just to give you a breakdown of how the money is going to be allocated, the city of Rochester is expected to receive $234 million from the American Rescue Plan. The county of Monroe will get $312 million. The school district will receive $296 million, and the Transportation Authority will receive $109 million. So obviously, you know, these are big chunks of funding. The biggest question that we need to still ask is, where is it going and how can we ensure that it's going to the areas where we see the most need? From that question, we have joined the North Star Coalition, which is comprised of state, local, federal organizations, as well as our legislators, to really have a deeper conversation of how can we best work together to ensure that the funds are allocated properly and dispersed in a way where we can see equity across the board. So one thing that we're going to be doing as a task force, on March 16th, tentatively, we're looking to have a community forum inviting all levels of government to, in addition to the North Star Coalition, to give us a presentation of where the funding streams come from, how the funding needs to be used, and then open it up for a deeper discussion of where do we see the most need. This is something that we're inviting the entire Rocks Acts body to be a part of, and also to really help with the recruitment. I'm going to be having a meeting with the Community Foundation, who are helping to spearhead the North Star Coalition to get more content and context of how the presentation will go. This is something that I will present at my next task force meeting for anybody who would like to join. That will be the first Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock, that being March 2nd, FYI, if anybody wants to join. I see you, Ted, over there. Yep, I got you. But you know, we really hope to have a good showing. We want to ensure that everyone is informed and aware and can help to really guide where this is going. Understanding that this funding is, this is a great opportunity. We won't have this in 4 years, right? This is something that we have to really take onus of, this additional fund that we have coming to the region, but also to ensure that it's going into the right places, because if not, we'll be right back in the same exact boat, having the same exact conversations. So I just really want to emphasize that and ask folks to please support the town hall meeting. Please invite as many people as you can. We'll be working to get together a save the date flyer and send that out as soon as possible. So I'll stop there if there are any questions before I turn it over to Kurt.
You have the time right now of that and the place? Will that be at the public market at 10 a.m. March 19th or March?
No, the public market event, that was last Saturday.
I know, but something's coming up in March.
Oh yes, well, this event will be via Zoom.
Via Zoom, good. Okay, excellent, wonderful.
Yep, so it's tentatively March 16th from 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom.
Yeah, I have a question. I sent in the chat my email. If you could send me links and information, I can then present it to the Sisters of Mercy.
Will do. Yep, and I got your email. Will do.
Thanks.
Include me in that email, please.
I have a question. What's the name? Can you hear me?
Yes.
What was the name of the housing bill, the tenants bill that you're seeking support?
It's the good cause eviction.
Good cause eviction.
Yes, the bill number. I have the state bill number that I can send over via email.
Because I want to do some advocacy with our representative there, Michael Peterson.
Great.
Thank you.
Definitely all the help we could get. So I will definitely send you over the information that was presented to us, given to us from the Citywide Tenants Union.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want us at that council meeting when Mary Lupian and Kim Smith and Stanley Martin advocate for 2 more people to join in that bill?
Great question, Dr. Mack. So to that point, the council chambers actually aren't open to the public. All of their meetings are via Zoom. What we're just asking if you can call on the council members, and I have a script from the Citywide Tenant Union that I can send out to help, to give you a structure for the conversation, but just really honing on the need for the bill to be passed.
Thank you. Please send me the script and I'll forward it out to all the religious leaders.
Perfect, will do.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you all so much for your help and support.
This is very exciting that all of this money is coming. I think we've all known it, but it's wonderful that you're on top of it and the voices of the people will be heard and how to allocate that. Thanks
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
Yeah,
Thanks
my
so very
pleasure.
much. And we want all of our congregations to send a representative to the Poverty Jobs Housing Task Force meeting on March 2nd at 6 o'clock via Zoom, the first Tuesday of every month. And I will publicize Asim's email address so that they can get a link to that meeting, so that could go into every congregational bulletin, Facebook posting, and website. Thanks so much, Asim.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So now I'll yield my time and turn it over to Kurt Lobenstein to talk to you from our Healthcare Workers Rising to talk about the Fair Pay for Home Care campaign.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I've been with Healthcare Workers Rising for about 2 years now. We've been around since 2017. We work with home care workers. So we organize home care workers for, jobs that aren't dead end jobs. Because right now, home care, pays close to minimum wage, right around $13.20 an hour, which is minimum wage right now, throughout all of upstate. And we've got about 3,500 members, Niagara Falls, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. And so we provide training. For a while, we were actually providing a transportation service through Lyft to be able to get home care workers back and forth from their house to their clients' homes. And yeah, what do home care workers do? Probably people have a general understanding, but I'll give you a quick rundown. They take care of some of our most vulnerable people in our communities at their homes, either as they age or if they have some sort of physical or mental disability. And so I'll tell you a quick story about a woman named Ayana. She is 65. She's from Barbados. And she's here in Buffalo, but the same story happens in Rochester. The same story happens in, throughout all of upstate. She doesn't have a car, and her client isn't super far away from her, but it takes her an hour and 15 minutes to get there by bus. So her shift runs from 3 to 11, 7 days a week, and then on Friday she stays from 3 p.m. till 7 a.m. overnight, and then goes back to her client's home at 3 o'clock that Saturday. So she sleeps, in that intervening time. And right now she's paid $14.50 an hour. And I don't know about y'all, but we had pretty brutal snow here in Buffalo recently. And she's 65 and takes the bus, and sidewalks aren't cleared. Getting around just generally is really, really difficult. And so, she goes to her client's home, which is an apartment, like a senior apartment. And it's just really, really difficult. And, she's been at this, I guess it's 35 years. She was in New York City for a while and then moved out to Buffalo because of cost of living. It's way cheaper to live in Buffalo than it is in the city. She has no idea when she'll be able to retire because there's nothing in terms of benefits. She was actually talking to me about the fact that, she's having issues with Medicaid. And now, as she ages, thinking about how Medicare will affect, all of that. Her husband was a police officer in Barbados, so has some retirement through him, but not much. I guess this is all to say that home care workers, I mean, the majority of them honestly are women, and the majority are women of color, particularly Black women. And the hours are really variable, right? Because you're taking care of somebody in their home, which is the gold standard in healthcare, right? We all want to try to age, in place, and especially during COVID, stay out of institutions, hospitals, nursing home, things like that. And so, where's I going with that? Yeah, the long and short of it is I mean, there's no benefits. There's nothing other than what the state has provided for. And the funding comes primarily from Medicaid for home care workers. And so what we're working on is raising the wage for home care workers. Because 13, 20, or even 14 or 15, I mean, at this point, I mean, with the way things are going, just isn't enough. And so right now, what the governor has said in the governor's budget is home care workers will get a bonus, but they won't get a raise. And CNAs, LPNs, all the other like job categories in healthcare are getting both raises and bonuses. And so we're saying, okay, home care workers, the lowest paid, I mean, right now they're heading for the exits. If I'm honest, I'm on the phone or I'm talking to home care workers, throughout all of my days, they're heading for the exits because you can go work literally anywhere else and make more and even probably have better benefits. I mean, one of my members, she's going to get her, certified nursing assistant. They're trying to figure out, especially in this job market, what are we going to do? I mean, I've got to be able to keep the lights on, pay my phone bill. I mean, homelessness is a real issue amongst our membership. Like people losing cars. I mean, I don't know. You can imagine that poverty, and I'm preaching to the choir, but poverty is violence. It's violence, and it's I don't know, in a way that you don't think about it, but I mean, it really is violence. And so what we're trying to do is advocate around, bring people under the coalition of Faith for Fair Pay. And so next Tuesday, we're hoping to have a press event, and it's kind of in the infant stages right now. Sometime in the afternoon, ideally at a church, synagogue, or mosque, where we can really push on the governor and say, hey, let's do this thing. We can't have our healthcare workers living in poverty. We want to try and get them off the safety net benefits that there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but like, let's not have these folks, these primarily, African-American women living in poverty day in, day out. And so, yeah, I mean, I kind of want to, like, there's three things that I want to have like a quick conversation about. The one is this press event. So what we're doing in Buffalo is we're going to have clergy and state legislators who have signed on to the Fair Pay for Home Care bill in the Senate come and attend and speak. So, I mean, goal is 2 clergy. We're going to have, at this point, we've got 2, 1 senator, 1 assembly member, and we're going to be at the Union Hall, 1199's Union Hall in Buffalo. And then in Syracuse, we're going to do it at Plymouth Congregational Church. We're going to have more like a vigil, so more prayer focused. We're also going to invite some, elected officials who have signed on to the bill. And yeah, obviously have home care workers. I mean, home care workers are the base of the whole thing. They'll be speaking at both of the events. And there's urgency because right now is like budget season. The budget is out. they can make amendments, for only so long. And if you don't get it in, you don't get it in, and they get stuck with bonuses, which is great, but does nothing for actual retention or recruitment of home care workers who are incredibly valuable to so many people. So yeah, I guess I'm opening the floor to. So those are the two things that we're doing in both Rochester, or well, in Buffalo and Syracuse. So I'm just opening the floor to what people think could potentially happen in Rochester.
We have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We did, just before the pandemic hit, have healthcare workers witness at county legislators meeting. And it was a marvelously moving event. The mayor at that time, Lovely Warren, spoke as one of many in advocating for living wages for healthcare workers, citing the story of her care for her own mother. And it was a wonderful event. And then the pandemic hit and everything went to sleep. But in our own congregation, we showed film clips of home health aides. One of them slept in her car.
Yep.
Another one was at work, and it was Mother's Day, and she was getting off work at 8 o'clock in the morning and looking forward to her son giving her a party in the afternoon. But her replacement didn't show up. So of course she stayed.
Yep.
And then at 4:30, the replacement did not show up. So of course she stayed. And so this is, round the clock work and not a livable income. And on our Way of the Cross walk on Good Friday of that same year, one of those stations was of a woman who was a home health aide. And she told the story of, I don't have meals with my children and my husband. I work right through the dinner hour. Of course, some people, after we showed the film clips at our church, some people spoke about how they give bonuses to the people that help their aged parents. And I'm sure that happens sometimes, but it can't happen all because not everybody can afford to make up the difference.
And also under Medicaid law, it's illegal. But I mean,
oh wow,
happens.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so like
Okay.
it happens for sure, but
Yeah.
it is also not.
Yeah.
Legal.
Yeah. This is an essential worker who we're starving.
Yeah.
You have any plans on doing a rally in Albany?
Yeah, so we are. I mean, we already did one. We did one actually on Valentine's Day. So it was Hearts for Home Care. And so I mean, the idea, which we didn't totally accomplish, but came close, was to encircle the Capitol with home care workers and kind of do a heart. We didn't quite get there. It was super cold. I mean, logistics, but yeah, no, I mean, definitely, that is happening and will probably happen again before budget cycle, is out at the end of March.
One other question. If the healthcare workers work for an agency, they don't get benefits?
Not always. I mean, there's one Nicole, she had been with this agency for, I think it was 16 years. I mean, it was some absurd amount of time. And they jacked up her benefits. I mean, she's a single woman. And they jacked up her benefits so that she had to pay $450 a month.
Wow.
And I mean, they weren't even that great. And so she just decided like, I can't afford that. Cause I mean, she's maybe making like 1,000 a month. I mean, like the math just doesn't make sense. So yeah, sometimes they're offered, but I mean, even if they're offered, they're not great. And then, if they're just too expensive.
Okay.
And I mean, retirement is it's not a thing that is ever offered. Right now, we're working with the Weiser Foundation, which is a group that cares particularly about women and their retirement and how how that looks, because women are generally underfunding retirement incredibly, because of the jobs they do, or I mean, the work that they do in the home. And so trying to figure out if we can do, I mean, and working with M&T Bank to do like a match savings where, I mean, home care worker puts in 20, the foundation puts in 10, up to like, so they can have like a little bit of like cushion, and also working with the Wilson Foundation to try and figure out how to have like some emergency fund, because I mean, if you have nothing in the bank, and your client dies, right? Which happens, you got no hours. So now, I mean, until you find a new client or your agency finds you a new client, you're living paycheck to paycheck already. But now what do you do? Or even your client goes into the hospital, right? That's hopefully temporary, of course, but what do you do in that case? And you're just kind of out of luck.
Kurt,
So
would
you-
you please include Rochester in your organizing with Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo? Because we care very much about this.
Yeah,
And
so I guess what I'm hoping is to get a little help from you as to what you think might be possible for next Tuesday, sometime in the afternoon. Do you think that we could pull something off? I mean, does anyone have a church or synagogue or mosque that they might be willing to let us use, and would anybody be willing to speak as well?
Are you doing this by Zoom or are you doing this in person?
We're gonna do it in person. We want to try to invite press. I mean, we don't want to make it big
Uh-huh.
because COVID is still amongst us, very much so.
well, Rebecca and Peter, Rabbi Peter and Reverend Rebecca, either of you want to open up Third Pres or Temple Brith Kodesh next Tuesday?
We have only just opened our church for worship again as of last Sunday. We've not yet opened it to any other, even to our own selves. We are still having committees sort of have to apply to be able to gather. This would be something that I would be really supportive of and would want to do, but there's no way it's going to happen, in 5 days, given where we are with COVID at the moment. But that said, unfortunately, this work is not going to be over in the next 5 days. So, do know that, we would be supportive further down the line.
Yeah, that's cool.
If I was going to be in town or even in state on Tuesday, I would offer Joanne Balliette's parish because I know that they would host. But since I can't be a part of this, I can't. But please let me know what it is you want for the next go round, and I will find you a spot here. We will have a place for you. I think that Rabbi Stein is now consoling that family that he spoke about having had a death. I think he's left our Zoom.
No, I'm here. I would
Oh,
say.
you are? Okay.
I would actually say almost word for word what Rebecca said,
Yes,
unfortunately.
I
so-
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's quick.
But Kurt, we are on board philosophically and in every other way. We just can't do this thing this Tuesday, but please consider us for the future. We will find a place here.
Or Dr.
Or
Mark,
we would
Dr. Matt.
Zoom. We would Zoom. Pardon me, Asim?
Yes, I was just going to ask, as a bit of a compromise, if we can identify another location, is it possible that a couple of you will be willing to speak to the issue? Don't all answer at once.
I mean, I wouldn't, because I really don't have all the information.
So we have a toolkit for clergy, which I'm going to drop in. I'll drop in the chat.
And tell me the time again on Tuesday.
I mean, it's flexible, right? I mean, and even the date is a little flexible. I mean, we're thinking afternoon, so I mean 3, 4. I mean, something so that the TV stations can come, do a little editing, and then get it on the evening news if they want to show up. Hopefully, they will.
So
I just
that
want
is-
to mention that, you know, we're really trying to influence the state budget, which should be, if everything works out the way it's supposed to, be passed by the end of March, and April 1 starts our new fiscal year for New York State. So we really have between now and really the mid part of March to influence the Senate and the House's budget proposals before the Senate Majority Leader, the Speaker of the House, and the Governor meet to hash out the final bill or the budget for our new fiscal year.
And the reason we want to do it ideally next week is because legislators have, what you want to call it, a break next week. And the weeks following, they're pretty much down in Albany with not much break.
But would it help if people from Rock X and from our congregations emailed or called the legislators?
I mean, sure. The good news, right, is that the legislators in Rochester are mostly signed on, you know, to the bill, which is awesome. I mean, it's always useful to say thanks, you know, to keep them and to be like, hey, champion this, you know, to hear that, you know, is useful. So yes, I mean,
But
the
a lot
answer
of
is,
times, if you poke them, then they influence their buddies.
oh yeah, and they, I mean, hopefully influence the governor. I mean, she's the ultimate. I mean, she's the ultimate decider in this thing.
Okay.
Kurt, Reverend Rebecca Seegers, the new pastor at Third Presbyterian Church, is willing to speak at 3 or so, but we still don't have a location.
Yeah, we can work on it.
Joanne, could you envision Denise and Lori giving that church availability?
I'm happy to ask them.
Thank you. And would you get Kurt's contact information from him so that you and he can plan this if it is to take place?
Okay,
And then you'd let the religious leaders all know in my
Absolutely.
absence, because I'll be out of the state.
okay. Sure.
Kurt, how's that
Thank you,
sound?
Kurt.
Yep, that's great.
Okay.
Reverend
Are there
Rebecca, do
any
you
more
mind just,
questions? Yes, Barry? Did you say something, Barry? Okay.
Reverend Rebecca, do you just mind sending me your contact information when you get a minute? Thanks, y'all. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Okay, thanks. It's good to hear your advocacy of a subject that's important to all of humanity, you know? This is kind of urgent. Okay, our next presenter is Shay Herbert. Ralph, would you like to introduce Shay? I can say that I heard Shay speak on January 20th at the Little Theater at a parole justice forum that was moderated by Stanley Martin. Damon Meeks was part of it, and there were at least 3 parole justice advocates on the panel who just tore our hearts out with their witness. Rock Axe presented that forum with a number of other organizations in collaboration. Ralph, did you want to say anything more?
Shay is such a great organizer. She was as a member and leader in RAP, which stands for Release Aging People from Prison. And I tell you, both the presentation and the panel discussion at the Little Theater that was held, and the video for the short video for which is available to congregations to use as an educational piece, as well as the parole justice is racial justice in all that during the advocacy day just a week or so ago in Albany, virtual. Shay was very much a part of that leadership as well. The RAP is a part of the coalition that Rock Axis participates with Vocal New York, as well as the Clean Slate Coalition, the Free the People, Rock, and Surge, showing up for racial justice. So it's so great to do this work in collaboration and to learn from those who had direct experience of injustice related to the prison system and everything surrounding it, but also the families. And that is why I think Shay's story and experiences give us a little bit more nuance of what's really going on in the full and a larger impact of the injustices for which we'll be are working on 2 bills in the coalition. But no further ado, Shay.
Running out to Walmart since I couldn't do it this morning.
Thank you both. I really hope I live up to the hype that was just presented to you all about myself. So hi, I'm Shay. I am an organizer with RAP, which is the Release Aging People in Prison campaign. I'm also an organizer here in Rochester with Free the People Rock. And I also work in the council office with Stanley Martin. So if you need me under any of those hats, I will drop all my information in the chat in a bit. But yeah, so a little bit about me and my advocacy for parole justice, parole reform. Through activism, I was educated a lot through my auntie, Reverend Joyce Powell, who is currently a political prisoner. She's been incarcerated for the past 15 years at Bedford Hills, and she was attacked for her work in the community. She was a reverend, she was a mom, an aunt, a grandma. She housed people who didn't have homes at her church. She fed them and took a lot of people under her wing. And one of my co-organizers with Feed the People Rock, Ashley Gant, actually knew my aunt under her church hat and was a mentor to her, which I didn't know when I met Ashley. So I thought that was really cool to kind of learn more about her and her story through other people, since I've never really had the chance to get to know her since she was, I was a child when she was in prison. So I kind of took it upon myself to learn more about my aunt and why she advocated for police change or abolition, and kind of wanted to keep her work alive because I knew how much the Rochester community meant to her and how much it means to me being a native and being here all my life. So I just started going to protests and reaching out to community members, showing up to scenes in the city that involve intercommunity violence or police brutality. And through that, I started organizing, and that's where my activism around ending mass incarceration and promoting racial justice began. So through RAP, we focus on ending mass incarceration and also promoting racial justice and focusing on the elders who are incarcerated, who are complete assets to our community. So I know Ralph briefly mentioned the 2 bills we're working on, and those are elder parole, which just states anyone who is considered an elder in the dock system, which is 55, and has served at least 15 years of their sentence, they're eligible to go in front of the parole board. So it's not guaranteeing they get parole. It's not saying that they should get parole. It's saying that I've been in here for 15 years. I am an elder per the New York dock system. I should have a chance to show the parole board who I am today and not, just be denied because of what I was sentenced. And the second parole bill is fair and timely, which basically means that commissioners should no longer be able to deny parole just because of the nature of the crime, that people should be considered for the education that they put themselves through while incarcerated, the programs that they participated in and started, and how they can implement that into their communities back home. So that's what I'm advocating for. I believe in transformative justice. I believe that people should have the opportunity to have a true second life outside of bars, no matter, what has transpired, to be transparent. And I believe that with the current parole bills in place now, folks are dying in prison who don't deserve to die in prison, especially with COVID here. 3 people die in prison every single day. And we don't know what kind of assets that they could have been to help, community violence, or to be that person who could make a change in someone's life who was younger. So I want to just give a few minutes to my rap community leader, Jose. He was also on the panel to kind of share more of that perspective. Jose.
Greetings, everybody. Let me just work this. So as I said earlier, my name is Jose. It's a pleasure to be here. I am formerly incarcerated, and just an aside, my wife and I are assisting a much beloved community family, an emergency, medical emergency. And so I'm in the car and driving around. When I think about transformation, and I think about what transformation looked like and how that affects us, it's interesting because all of the traditions that we all believe in, and I am a practitioner of earth religion and believe in just the idea of getting to nature and reestablishing our roots with just the joy of walking in the country and just exploring that thing, is that it's a journey, and it's a journey that often starts with a community and then an individual on their own, and then a community again in that path for transformation. And those moments of alone time, whether it's the dark night of the soul or the metaphorical psychological aloneness that it talks of, or the actual physical aloneness, and that could be home or in an institution or a center, anywhere, we often do our most hard work. We often do our most self-transformative introspection. And then when the time comes to emerge back into the community, we have that beloved community. We have those elders, we have those youth that open up their arms and greet us and say, what was your story? What was your situation like? Please share with us, so that we can share in your grief, we can share in your sorrow, we can share in your struggle, and then we can learn from it and honor it and recognize it. The sad thing is that many of the incarcerated don't have that community, especially those elders who have served long-term sentences. And believe it or not, these bills go a long way in supporting our community members, especially for when they come home, because there's nothing more healing to know that you are considered, that you are valued, and that the hard work that you have done has meaning and has value. And so the family, for example, that we're assisting today is, they helped my wife while I was incarcerated. They helped, with numerous things. They helped the community. And so I'm doing my part for the beloved community. And that's something I learned while I was incarcerated. And that's something that I will continue to do the rest of my life, wherever there is a need. So I really encourage you to think about your journeys of transformation that you have that you've had, or those that in your family or the community, and think about how they were supported and how people stepped up and said, we see there's a need here. What can we do for you? And we ask at RAP that you see and learn about the need that is here, and then put pressure where there can be pressure, and help people get to the board and have their accomplishments recognized and support them. And so I thank you for this opportunity, and I thank you for allowing us to present.
Jose, you saw the movie, The Interview.
Yes, I was on the panel that night.
Yeah. And that was very moving. And I understand that's on YouTube. Is that all we need to do is Google YouTube and then Google The Interview, and up will come that YouTube?
Yes, I'm pretty sure, but I can just get the link for it, and I can email it and
Please.
send it. And
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. That would be wonderful for us to put in our congregational bulletins, on our Facebook pages and websites, because the more people see that, the more we'll sign the bills. And I see that Shay has put in the chat the numbers of the bills. Sister Phyllis, you asked for that, and Shay has provided it. And Duncan, can you send that to me so I can send it to everybody? The chat. Duncan, are you able to do that? Great.
Yes, I can do that.
Great, good. So take notes now, because who knows when I'm going to be able to get that email out to you all. So take notes from the chat, please, so that you can support these bills. What questions have you for Shay and for
Jose.
Jose?
If there's no questions, that's great.
I have
My
one-
hand is raised. This is Reverend Marilyn Cunningham.
Go ahead.
This question is for Jose. You know, I'm proud of you for what you have accomplished. It don't matter, you know, it's none of my business why you were in jail, but the fact that you served your time and you're out, so I'm proud of you. And, you know, I agree with what you said about being there, the beloved community. But my thing is this, and I know everybody's not the same, Jose. But when a person, especially the clergy, reaches out to individuals that are incarcerated, that have written them letters, and when, you know, because a lot of inmates, when they're getting ready to come out, pastors that they know, they do send letters, you know, I'm going to be getting out. Do you know about this? Do you have information for me and whatever? And Jose, my question is this: when a pastor do reach out and try to do all they can after they get out of the system, and when they come out and it seems like after that pastor has done all that they know how to do to help, and then they, like, you know, it's almost like, and I'm quite sure it's not like this with everyone, but the two instances I'm talking about where I helped and I was there for these individuals as soon as they were out, they turned their back, or once they got on dry land, they didn't want to communicate anymore. So now that's not going to encourage me from doing me, because I'm going to be me no matter what. But what do you tell someone that has been in the system? What do you tell a pastor, or what do you tell a person that has done that? Because a lot of times that will deter someone from doing it again, because it is hurtful, because you're trying to do the best. And, you know, I don't know, is it like, you know, you tell me, Jose.
Well, yes, and first I want to acknowledge that your expression of just hurt and concern over, you know, individuals requesting support and basically just leaving you and running off, and so I wanted to acknowledge that and just hold that for a second. Well, that's a really, you know, that's a very discouraging phenomena among, you know, the recently released. And I think to unpack that, we have to look at, you know, what is going on in those individuals' lives that at that moment of release, that just has them stray away from such a great support and welcoming community. And we can probably unpack that to a lot of things. And so I'll just enumerate a couple. Maybe it's, you know, employment, maybe it's family, maybe addiction, you know, there's things like that. And then, you know, sadly, there are some individuals who just, you know, they request the support, they get it, and then they just go on their way. And so how do we, you know, what do we do with that? How do we move forward with that? And then also, how do we just like make space for those type of situations? And I would say that, you know, the vast majority of longtime servers that I know, when they come home, they stay connected because they understand the value of the community. They understand the value of the family. And so for those that tend to be the stray ones that turn away, often it's just staying in touch with them. It's just making time. And it is discouraging and it's sad, but you know, is it possible to save every single person? Is it possible to reach every single person? We want to hope to, we want to, you know, that's why we're here. But unfortunately, some individuals are going to just, you know, they're going to stray away. So for concerns for those that, you know, feel that concern and feel that way, first I want to acknowledge it and just encourage those to say, you know, to be discerning, have a discerning eye, ask the hard questions, you know, get some time to know the individuals as best as you can in that specific circumstance. Like everybody, you know, for me specifically, every person that I have had a connection while incarcerated with in some capacity that is not my family, I immediately got in touch with and am staying in touch with, even if it's just checking in and just saying, you know, I appreciate you coming to teach at the prison, or I really appreciated you coming volunteering and teaching us about alternatives to violence. And even that, just to let them know that I am still plugged in, I am still here. And that's the best we can hope for. And unfortunately, some are just, they're going to stray, as I said. So I hope I encouraged you. I hope I gave you some type of
You
idea.
did. I'm not gonna give up. I just wanted to get your take on it, because it's something to think about, those of us that are clergy, that's our calling, to keep going back. And that one of the things that Rock Acts taught me back in the day was, if it doesn't work, you go back and you try again. So I know that, but I just wanted to get your take on it, to see if there are a lot of clergy, there are a lot of people that do reach out, that do mean well. And stuff happens. And I just wanted to get your take on it. So thank you very much, Jose, for unpacking some of this for me.
Yeah, thank you. And if you know, if you want to have a further discussion on this, or just, you know, brainstorm, or just, you know, anything, you know, I'm more than willing to schedule some time and talk with you or anybody that has a similar or related concern, or just, you know, just want to bounce ideas regarding this. I'm more than willing to talk and explore, you know, ways to work on this.
Thank you for that. Now that I will keep in mind. Thank you for that.
I'll put my
Jose,
email in the chat.
Give your contact information into the chat, please.
Yes. I
Thank
will.
you. Thank you so much. Are there more questions for Shay and Jose?
Yeah, I had my hand up.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
The first thing I want to ask is there any system involved? I know in the Native community, what we do is we have pre-release contact. So when we know a Native is in jail and they're going to be released, what we do is we go and we visit and ask them in no uncertain terms, what do you need when you get out? And to get them in touch with our community for, could be, you know, helping with drug rehabilitation, helping with learning how to use a bank, learning how to use a checkbook, learning how to, you know, budget, how to, you know, we also have programs that the whole family comes in and we work with them, because you can't send, the way we look at it is, look at a healthy forest. If you send one bad tree into the healthy forest, everything's going to get unhealthy. So what we do is have programs for families to come in so that they can deal with the release. Because releases, they've lived a, you know, whole different existence than what the family was living. So, you know, there has to be understanding on both sides and give and take. So is there a program involved that is pre-release?
So through RAP, we do have some resources for folks who are recently released from incarceration. Locally, though, in Rochester, because RAP is based in New York City, and me and Jose are the Rochester chapter of it. We have our own connections through like different hats. So I'm connected with like transformation housing, or programs that work to get people who are recently released jobs. So they come in and they like volunteer their training and they move them into like an actual position. And those are things that I connect people on when they come back home, as well as preparing for parole release. Like right now I'm working on a parole packet for a kid who's going up in front of the parole board in June. So I'm getting his certificates and meeting with people who could give him a job in things that he's already trained in or that could help him further his education. So that's all lined up if he's released in June. So there are resources there for the folks that we advocate to be released.
Right, but that is, okay, but that is when they're released. See, we go in like a month or two before they're even released.
Yeah.
To, you know, really get them. And we're looking more, because it is a Native community, we're looking more to get them involved with more traditional community stuff. You know, yeah, there'll be job stuff, but it's more a spiritual thing, you know, to have them connect. So, you know, I was wondering whether there's any kind of an idea of doing that.
Can we just clarify a little bit more? I'm not sure I'm completely understanding what you're.
Before they even are released, we have elders and spiritual leaders that go in and visit with them at least once a week.
Right.
And say, you know, kind of get them their footing before they get out. When they get out, that's a whole different situation. Looking for a job, looking, you know, how to deal with parole. And that's when they get out. But before they get out, we're trying to give them some sort of footing.
Well, yeah, we are in communication with them before they are released.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. But yes, yeah, we're in communication with folks who we know personally and to prepare them for, you know, coming home and making sure they have like resources while they're incarcerated. So yes.
Okay.
I know.
Jose, your hand is up. Did you want to add something?
Yes. While I was incarcerated, I was employed as a reentry assistant in you know, what is the transitional services. And I helped men connect to resources in pretty much all of New York State, and specifically Rochester, because of the facilities that I was located in. We were closer to the Rochester, Monroe County area. Now, while DOCS does provide a reentry service program, it falls very, very short of adequate preparation for a lot of reasons that I can get into another time. DOCS releases roughly 2,500 incarcerated individuals yearly. So that's a pretty high number of people that are being released. And the resources to do kind of what you were talking about is not really there to assist individuals one-on-one for reintegration back into society. And so what happens is they take these programs while incarcerated, and best of luck to you when you hit the door. And hopefully you have a community of supporters and a good skill set to find yourself in a good position. So unfortunately, there really isn't a lot of that. What you're doing is exceptional work and beyond what is even the average or the hoped for most incarcerated individuals, unfortunately. And I think I really believe and hope that if a lot more people had that support, when they come home, they would not be as likely to stray from that, you know, from the community and from the church and from the clergy. So I hope that kind of helped you also.
Thank you so much. And more will come next month when Ralph and others from the Justice System Task Force update us on what Shay and Jose have been doing and give us the bill numbers and the dates and the times for when we can take action. And they'll keep us in touch. We'll now go on to Christine Jackson, who will update us on the ways that our congregations can support the Education Task Force in ROCAX. Christine?
Okay, yes. First, let me just say, Educational Task Force has been around way longer than I have been. So I'm going to speak mostly from the current situation, but I want to make you aware there's many people on this Zoom who have been part of that education task force have been out there actively involved and continue to do that. And I just don't want to downplay that. I just don't have all of the history about it. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So if you will do the slides for me, Duncan. The first slide is really just a touch upon, just small touch really, in terms of things that education is all about. And I just wanted to hit that because that's some of the things that we focus on. But as I look at this slide, one couple of things that are really, really missing. And one is mental health. And we definitely don't want to lose that in the concept of education. And the other thing is busing, which I learned a little bit more about just recently. So again, we want to just show that education is out there. We talk about the learning, we truly talk about the diversity, and we talk about relationship building. So next. Okay, this is the old slide, but the next slide would have been things that ROC-ACT has actively been involved with. Like they were with the city at one time, they were part of a workshop or part of supporting functions that took place. They worked in the city school district where they talked to each one of the principals in terms of helping and asking what can they do to gather the parents together so that the parents could be trained to speak and voice their concerns. So those are just really just a small part of the things that they have done in the past. Currently, we're in a state, because we don't have an organizer per se, of just reorganizing ourselves, the small group that we have. We're trying to organize them in a way that we're structured, that we go out and not only talk to people, but we have tasks that we see that get done. So I apologize, I'm talking from one aspect, but the gist of what we're doing is here. ROC-ACT meets every, the second and the fourth Thursday of each month. We restructured recently, and I'm a co-chair along with Joanne. We volunteered to do that for the fact that we don't have an organizer at this point. So it's a temporary position. And the first thing we did is just talked about ourselves, trying to reorganize ourselves to become more cohesive, to really focus on those things that we want to accomplish. Through those conversations, some of the things that do come out and are kind of key points is that the school board, members are going to be going to the school board. We've already had a couple people go. And it's really important that we attend the school board meetings because we need to know what they're talking about. Because back in June 2020, there was a letter that went out to all the superintendents, and it focused on their stand against racism. And that is our foundation also, to stand against racism. So the key was, how do we help these superintendents? First of all, are they adhering to those letters? So there were meetings that were gone to by various members, and they talked to, I think, approximately 7 or 8 school superintendents to really see where they were in this curriculum. And I call it a curriculum, I know it's not, but they talk to them on a one-on-one basis. The follow-up is something that we try to do. We haven't done it to the point that we want to, because we want to make sure that the schools are not just saying, okay, bowing their heads and then going on and doing their day-to-day activities the same as they have been. We want to know that the school is teaching our children everything about history, everything about racism that they can know. Realizing I'm not an educator, so I don't know the various levels based on the grades, but I do know that it is important that our kids are educated, that they understand what is going on, why they have a knowledge of the history. It is not about making someone feel guilty because they're not a person of color, but it is about knowledge, understanding. And so that is really the focus right now. The team is going out, they're meeting with the, going to the school board meetings. They're coming back, they're sharing, they're throwing out ideas. And that's why I mentioned mental health, because sometimes we forget that mental health is key with children. They're facing a lot when they go into the school system. They're facing discrimination. They're facing poverty. They're facing the fact that they have to walk to school in the dark or come home in the dark. All of these things affect them mentally. And whether they say it out loud or not, it is there. So that is one of the key things too, that as we organize and stretch out, that we want to really continue to keep in the forefront. We want to build our networks and really utilize those networks in order of helping them and them helping us. We want to build upon the parent relationship. We have parents as part of our members, but we want to grow that. We want parents of color. We want male parents. Our committee is mostly women, if not all women, but there are male parents who are going through things. We want them to be active in our meetings and things like that. I'm trying to think of, we want to build relationships. That's a key. We can go out and talk to the superintendent, say what we have to say, they respond, and never see the person again. We don't want that. We want to build that rapport. We want to be able to have a relationship with those school systems so they know Rock Acts and Rock Acts knows them. So those are some of the key things. I'm kind of going it over quickly because I know we're at the end of time. But those are some of the key points. Again, I'm newer than most of the people in the group, but we do have new members coming in. So when we look at where we can utilize your help, one is in terms of the support. The other is in terms of more people coming and becoming members of it. Identifying other things that we may not have hinted upon in this meeting, that in terms of education that we need to think about. We will continue to try to grow internally in terms of becoming a unit and becoming more cohesive. We've also, just the last meeting, targeted certain schools. We want to look at those schools and really dwell on what's going on there so that we can again start to utilize the work that we say we want to do. So we're looking at 3 and we're setting timelines in order to reach that. So those are some of the key things. I don't, again, have the depth that some of the individuals on this have in terms of the history of the Educational Task Force, but I did want to share where we are now and where we would like to go. So thank you again for the invite.
Thank you, Christine. Who has a question for Christine or an observation? Well, Christine, the work of the Education Task Force is so incredibly important, especially now as Asim has announced the great amount of money the Rochester City School District is about to receive. We want to be in on talks about the allocation of those funds. Every faith community would want to send a representative from their faith community to the Education Task Force. In our congregations, we have teachers, social workers, school social workers, librarians, administrators, and parents galore. And there is more than one person who is in every congregation who has very, very fine, indispensable knowledge to share on which we can build. Really, that is the ideal when our local organizing committee is in each congregation. It's usually the social justice advocates, but they can find who would be good in education from their relationships with their congregational members. So that is true for the Justice System Task Force, the Voting Rights Task Force, the Climate Change Task Force, and the Poverty Jobs Housing Task Force. we have a word that Kim Byers wants to give us to whet our appetite for the Voting Rights Task Force's update at our next meeting. Kim, are you still on this Zoom?
I am, thank you. So it's actually to tie in with what Christine is talking about. And we do have a new committee. We've only met for one time now, called the Voting Rights Committee. And we want to engage more with all of the congregations and members of Rock Acts on how we can get the word out and get more people engaged with voting. As a start, what we're looking at is talking about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and building an education process that we would like to roll out with a couple of the member organizations. Like I said, we've met only once, but that's where we're heading right now. But there's a lot more that can be done. And just as Christine has been talking about bringing people into the education task force, right now, the core of this Voting Rights Committee is just myself, two people from Rock Acts, and the president from League of Women Voters. We really need to get other interested parties to come together to help to build this, because there are many, many things we can do to reach into the community, but it really is dependent upon if people are interested in getting engaged or not. So I ask all of you to be thinking about that. And if you reach into your communities, are there people interested in voting rights and getting out in the community to get people engaged, to get out to vote, to advocate for voting rights, and those types of issues?
And this is what Rock Acts is. It's a community of communities. And there's expertise lying in all of those communities. And we want that each one to have a voice. And that's really the only way we can solve problems. The more people who are in on solving the problem, the more who are collectively responsible for its outcome. So let's really look at our communities. You see, we can't do it all, but there are people within our communities that can do so much if only we will give them voice. Is your hand up, Virginia?
Yeah, Kim, I'll be coming to your next meeting, and I'd like maybe the Voting Rights Committee to touch base with Network, which is women religious lobbying group in Washington, D.C. And there's a I'm on a committee in New York State to talk about this and to get reform, the gerrymandering that's going on and everything else.
Right.
So I'll bring that information to the next meeting, but I think it might be important for somebody other than myself to get involved in Network. I'll get in touch with them, see if you can be on the next call.
Okay, thank you.
Because we're doing a lot of work in that area.
That would be great. In fact, I have an advocacy letter that I talked to Dr. Gale about that we're going to sign up for around one of these items. So
okay.
There is just a lot. There is a lot that can be done, but it can't be done by two people.
Right.
Tim, would you please put your contact information into the chat so that Ginny can get it? So
okay,
that you'll send her
as a
the
final
link.
ask.
Yeah, Tiffany knows. I think it's Tiffany. Oh. Yeah, she'll be sending me the link for the meeting.
All right, good.
Okay.
Good.
And as a final ask, each of you are connected to a community. If you could go out and ask, is there someone here who'd like to get involved at the ground floor of designing a program that Rock Acts will initiate around voting rights, getting people out to vote, and related items like that, advocating for items. We've even been talking about advocating beyond New York State. But please get in contact with me, bring some names in, and we'd love to have people join us. So there's more that we can do than what I can talk about right now.
Thank you so much, Kim. Is your information, your contact information in the chat yet?
No,
Put it
not
in,
yet.
just in case somebody wants to get in touch with you. Know that all of that, what we've been talking about, is building up the beloved community, which is the work of all of us in ROCAX and in especially the Religious Leaders Caucus. So continue to send me your ideas on building up the beloved community, on what you need to hear as a caucus so that you can take action, so that you can better inform your local organizing community, which is most likely your social justice team in your congregation. And we'll meet again formally on March 16th at 11:30 till 1. But individually and in small groups, please reach out to one another, keep in touch, communicate. Attached to your last minutes were several items. One of them was building the beloved community. Look at that and see how you would want to fine tune how we want best to be working together as Religious Leaders Caucus. And please let me know. You have my email address in that Zoom call letter. Does anybody have a parting comment that they want to make today?
I think Ralph Carter had his hand up.
Ralph, I'm sorry I overlooked you. Please speak.
Oh, I was just wanting to make the connection between parole justice and voting. Kim, maybe let's have some conversation offline, because my understanding is that what was temporarily put in, that there was a way for people who were released from prison could vote under certain rules, and that those rules have now changed and it's more open. I just wonder if there's an opportunity, an educational opportunity, especially among those who have been released or provisionally released from prison.
Ralph, that's actually a great suggestion, and it's something that we've had our ear on in the league because it is so misunderstood. And I don't know if Jose is still on, but a connection to the community of people who may not be voting because they think they don't have the right is a focus area that would be terrific. So having someone interested in that, let's get out there, let's educate, let's make sure people are registered, make sure they know where to vote. I think it's so important. All the bills we're talking about related to incarceration. Get out and vote.
And let's remember, vote in every election knowledgeably, and our democracy is at stake. It's crucial. Empower your congregants. William, I see that you've joined us. I wonder if you have a closing comment that you'd like to make.
No, just that the conversations are rich. Let's continue them.
Thank you. Good. Peter Peters, have you anything that you'd love to say?
Denny, thank you. I apologize for being late for the meeting. I had other commitments, but I thought it was a good discussion. I'm sorry I missed the focus on housing. That's where I'm working and very much important to me. But I'm delighted to see that topic and the concern of chronically homeless people being raised up.
Mm-hmm. The status of tiny houses in Rochester, what's reach up to?
So, sorry, what was that?
What is the status of tiny houses in Rochester and what is reach up to?
Well, reach has influenced the city's planning calendar so that in the 23-24 target, tiny homes are actually listed as a possibility. The mayor mentioned it the other day. We have had some very exciting conversations with the city. We are exploring a lot in the city. Right now, we're stuck because we've raised $230,000, but before we can build the first units, we need twice that amount of money.
Well, on that note, we need to close. We've gone over time, and in a way, I'm sorry we went over time, but in a way, I'm glad because this has been a very meaningful conversation that we've held. Please keep in touch and God bless. Thank you for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you.